hard and you aiming for the 7 figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors, all my entrepreneurs. Time for you to check this. Johan Direct, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe, REI Tribe. Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome to this new episode of the REI Tribe Podcast. Today I have a very special guest on the show, Forrest Blackburn. Forrest, I'm glad to have you here, man.
Thank you, dude.
As I was saying offline before we get started, I remember you back in the day on Investor Lift. You were like one of the originals there. I remember having participating to this Zoom call where you provided a lot of value on, scaling a business. I think I remember that the previous company you were part of, we're going to touch base a little bit on that, but I remember you scaled this company in such a short amount of time that it was something unseen in the wholesaling industry. So, man, can you explain to us a little bit more about, first of all, how you got into real estate?
Yeah, no, sure. First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. We did meet a few years ago on that podcast, and then you reached out through Instagram, and I'm glad you touched base, and here we are. Business scaling is my background, and I do that with sales and marketing. I had a sales and marketing company we were selling a marketing product, and it was small businesses. Small and medium-sized businesses from about 2009 to about 2019. And that went from 7 reps to 1,500 reps nationwide by 2012. And by 2015, we had 17 franchises nationally. And, school of hard knocks and just doing a lot of split testing. It wasn't like I ran a playbook, but from doing all that split testing and growing all that, I developed a playbook and a blueprint. Worked for a lot of Fortune 5000s and 500 companies that I worked with: Travelocity, Disney Cruises, UPS, Keller Williams, 1-800-DENTIST, a lot of big companies that I was able to scale their revenue by synergizing sales and marketing. And from doing that and growing that company, I ended up kind of scaling myself out of that business and sitting at home and looking at KPIs and looking at reporting. And I put my hat back in the ring and as a private consultant and started working for some of those large corporations. And in doing so, that's when Tarek Al-Musa from the show Flipper Flop reached out and said that he was kind of exhausted at being the CEO of his real estate company, given the fact that he had so many other TV shows going at the time and a lot of personal things going on. So I stepped in. And the biggest thing that I learned very quickly with Tarek was that, like the show Flipper Flop, it was all based around flipping, and his business was all based on flipping. And flipping is a long cash cycle.
It is, yeah.
Sometimes, especially in Southern California, you're looking at sometimes 6 to 8, even 12 months on getting a sizable property completely flipped and sold. And that can be tough on the wallet. That can be hard on the business. It can be hard on your sales staff while they're waiting around for that money to come back in. So I quickly, learned that real estate wholesale is a fast cash cycle. And for me to be able to put money into marketing, I have to have that fast cash cycle to be able to roll it back in. So I immediately kind of switched the model and really dove very hard into wholesale. And there was only maybe 2 salespeople on staff when I first took over with Tarek. And I grew that to about 5 reps very quickly. And in about 5 months, the wholesale side of the business went from $40,000 to over $1 million. And then it just grew and grew from there. Now, granted, this is 2021, 2020, 2021, when things were a lot easier. Inventory was low, interest rates were on the floor. So it was very easy to move properties. But with that momentum and the scalability and the blueprint to be able to put in an infrastructure, a corporate infrastructure, we had these $2 million months going on. We gave everybody half the month off in December for the holidays, and we still did $1 million a month in assignment fees. So It was, like I said, it was a lot easier then, but the infrastructure still holds true. And I find that a lot of people in real estate wholesale, which real estate wholesale is the most amazing gateway to get into any real estate investing, unless you're blessed with cash or you have some, family money or a good, very wealthy business partner. You have to generate the money to be able to get into flipping, to get into
Yeah.
rentals, and real estate wholesale is the best way to do that. You don't really have very much skin in the game when you get into it. You got your EMDs and your earnest money deposits, and past that, all you're doing is really selling papers. So real estate wholesale fits my model because it is true sales and marketing. You're not really doing a
Absolutely.
whole lot of real estate. You're selling
Yeah.
paper. And it
Yeah.
all comes down to the marketing side of things. So scalability is very easy. So,
And I would guess that you were probably, Tarek on his business was probably getting a lot of leads coming in through, his brand recognition and probably some other form of marketing that you guys were doing in California. And he probably had a very tight buy box for his flip. So I guess you would get a lot of leads that wouldn't qualify. And that's where wholesaling can be very interesting, because then you can go monetize after those leads that you wouldn't monetize otherwise, right?
yeah. No, we did. We focused primarily on Southern California and a little bit of Oklahoma. We were in San Diego County, Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Los Angeles County. So really all the major Southern California area.
Okay.
And
Why
we also
Oklahoma?
needed to have, for rentals, Oklahoma has a very small ebb and flow as far as market changes. So it's a good market to pick up rental properties. I think we picked up 110 or 112 rental properties in 2021, just in the Oklahoma market.
All single family?
Yep, all single family residential. And so we were doing marketing there. Yeah, you're right. Because of his brand, because of his shows, and his facial recognition,
Mm-hmm.
he's been in everybody's living room for 10 years through HGTV. So it creates a strong comfort zone, a lot
Of course.
credibility. But with that, even though he has 16 million viewers, there's not a lot of people that don't have intimidation to contact or reach out to.
Mm.
So the ones that do, and you got to be careful, because some of the ones that do, they just want to talk to him. They want to talk to him about his personal relationships or one thing or another. So in our marketing, you have to be very delicate on your negative keywords and what you don't want people to find you for. But we did a lot of very aggressive marketing, from television and radio to obviously, Google search and Facebook and direct mail and driving for dollars. I had an entire driving for dollars team and still do. And, it really comes down to how aggressive you can be in split testing a lot of different methodologies, from cold callers to SMS to postcards and direct mail. And within those platforms that you're doing the marketing with, split testing different markets, because I find that certain markets don't work very well for direct mail, but they work very well for social. Certain markets don't work very well for social, but they work really well for cold call.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to who your target audience is and your target markets. But I find that a lot of people get tripped up on trying to have lead flow, which doesn't necessarily equate to deal flow, and necessarily revenue. That's always the punchline, right? If you look at the math equation, the total should be your revenue, and making sure that you're contacting areas with properties that have meat on the bone, so that you're not just spinning your wheels and spending your acquisitions. People are spending an hour on the phone, for a property that's going to yield a $3,000 spread. Spend that same hour on the phone with a property that's going to give you a $100,000 spread. And when you're doing these $100,000 and $200,000 spreads, it's very easy to get 10 deals and do a few $1 million in a month. So it really comes
That's
down
a
to
very good point. That's a very good
time.
point here. Sorry to cut you off first, but I think it's a very good point you made here. That's something that I experienced firsthand. I started my career here in the U.S. in Detroit, in Michigan, and so it was a great market. We were doing north of 200 deals a year, but the spread were so thin that when it goes to doing like Google PPC, for example, you need to really watch out for your cost per lead, because it can really like completely kill your entire operation. I think we have a lot of people in the audience.
Your deal cost goes through the roof. If your deal cost is too high, your overhead is too high, those margins, they're not very attractive.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
to get to $100,000 in a month when you're doing, you know, $200,000 spreads, you have to do 50 deals in a month just to get
You do.
there. Versus if you've got these $50,000 spreads, that's two deals to get to 100K. So it really
Absolutely.
does come. And with virtual wholesale, and you mentioned investments in the beginning, you know, that was really kind of a parting of the clouds, you know, moment for us. And, you know, we were focused on our flips in California and Oklahoma. Now, partnered with Cody Sperber, working with Green Elephant Development and our wholesale brand, um, we have 14 markets that we work in, and everything's very virtual. And I proved out that model with Tarek, and that's how we were able to really expand our revenue. You have to be very selective. A true nationwide campaign means that you're willing to take anything, and being willing to take anything means that you're not very focused.
Yeah.
Means that your business model is not laser focused and laser driven, and you don't know where the meat is. You'll take a deal from anywhere. And, you know, that can get back to what we were talking about these $2,000 spreads and having to really, really work hard to get there. So, you know, we've sharpened the blade. And, you know, with Green Elephant Development, you know, we have a very focused marketing agenda and budget. Our team is very focused. We do a lot of training with our sales team. Max Jimenez from the Closers Olympics, I just recently brought him on board as a VP of sales to do training and to work with the sales team. I'm an operational person and a scaler, which means that I've got my hands in every aspect of the company. Everything from branding to marketing to sales infrastructure to KPIs to payroll to P&Ls. And you know, that means that I'm spread very thin. So having somebody that's focused on sales has been, you know, kind of a big blessing. I'm going to bring Max in here in not too long so that we can kind of talk a little bit more
Sure.
and share with your audience about what's working for us. You know, we're getting ready to cross the $300,000 mark for September, and we're not even halfway through the month yet. So I guess we're approaching. So we're on track for probably about $600,000 month this month.
That's amazing. So you were talking about the nationwide approach, or not completely nationwide. I think you say you're in what, 15 states, something like that?
Yeah, about 14 states,
14
and then
states.
there's multiple markets within those states.
All right.
Yeah.
So how do you manage? I'm talking, for example, about like Facebook ads campaign or Google PPC. You get a lot of leads in those areas that are going to be like very rural, you know, like you don't really have that many options, not a lot of activity, not many cash buyers. So I know there is like novation, but like, can you really do novation on everything, or what's the secret method to kind of weed out all those leads that are very hard to dispose?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's not really necessarily a secret. It's just, again, it's having options for people.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot. I just had a phone call yesterday. It was a call that I had with a shop that is located in North Carolina, and you know, they've been offering cash offers, and they're still stuck on that cash offer. And when you're only offering one option to somebody, you're presenting them with a yes or no scenario. When you're presenting a cash offer, creative terms, and within creative terms, you can have multiple options for creative terms. It's creative. It's in the name. So you can get creative. If you're offering novations, all of these options put you in a which one scenario as opposed to a yes or no scenario. And it really doesn't matter at that point which one they choose. You're going to win. As long as it's presented properly, as long as you're going through proper seller education to make sure that they understand the options that are being presented. But every market's going to be a little bit different. If it's a great rental market, you know, you're gonna present things a little bit differently because the investor that's going to be purchasing that contract, that assignment, is looking at it from a rental standpoint. If it's a flip market where there's a lot of flips going on, and you know, there's a lot of upside to that. You know, there's a lot of ways to approach it. You just have to be very strategic in understanding who you're talking to and understanding the market that you're in. And I find that a lot of the investors, you know, they work with hard money.
Yeah.
And in working with hard money, you're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12, in some cases 14% on that money if you're getting 100% financing. And that's costly. So if you can come up with a creative solution to sell to a flipper, you don't have to worry about this 5 or 7 year balloon
Mhm.
A lot of people offer, say in the sub 2 community, uh, and that Pace teaches. You can offer a 12 or a 24 or an 18-month balloon, because as long as you've got that sexy low interest rate that you are servicing, if it's 3%, and even if you're giving an equity wrap on top of that, it's still going to be far less than the hard money loan that flipper is going to be looking at. So now you've basically built in that hard money loan. And if you're smart, tack your own percentages on top of there. If it's a 2.9% interest rate and you're paying the seller $500 equity every month, well,
Yeah.
then tack in an additional component on the wrap, give yourself $500 a month, and inflate that interest to 4.9. It's still cheaper than the hard money that a flipper is going to need, and it makes the deal a lot more attractive. The entry fee is lower, the interest rate is lower, and they're able to get in and get done what they need to have done. Maybe they'll need to get a construction loan, but still they're saving money, and it's a lot more attractive.
Yeah.
So you
It
just have to
works
be
for
willing
an
to offer
homeowner
a
as
lot of
well. Like,
options.
yeah, obviously for a flipper, it makes perfect sense when you go after those 12, 15% interest that they would get from a hard money lender. But I think in the current market, I think the interest rate are around what, 7%, 7.5% right now
Yeah,
for
so
like a
that's
30
about
year.
7.5%, and it just keeps
So
going up.
yeah, so I guess like even for a homeowner, for a primary residence, it makes perfect sense to buy one of those wrap. If you're able to get, recapture those loans from like 2, 3 years ago at like
No,
two,
100%.
2.5 points, it makes perfect sense, and you still have a lot of room to put your own fee on top. So
Sure. I mean, if
I
you go
think it's
through a
great.
novation or a listing process where you get the property out on the MLS, there's a lot of homeowner or a lot of home buyers out there, even first-time buyers, who don't necessarily have 20% to put down,
Hmm.
and may not be able to provide the proper credit check and backup material and tax returns to be able
Yeah,
to qualify. So a novation based off of a creative finance deal is ideal for them. They only have to come up with, say, $35,000. $20,000 to the seller and a $15,000 assignment fee, and then they've got these lower monthly payments, and they're locked into this beautiful interest rate that they otherwise would never have been able to attain. It makes it attainable for them to be able to walk in to these properties. So they are selling. We are moving them, and it makes it very attractive.
absolutely. So what I want to ask now is like, how do you train your sales team, your closers to actually understand all those concepts? Because that's something that I experienced firsthand in my company. And I had to have someone dedicated, for example, of just doing creative deals. Because when I try to train my entire team at, all those different creative alternatives between innovation and confusing in their mind. So I'm just wondering, how did you manage to train your team to be creative enough to look at all the options on every deal?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, it comes down to the scripting. If you are able in your scripting to explain this to a seller,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously your sales team, if they have enough brain power between their ears, they will understand it as well. So it really comes down to your infrastructure, your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, and your scripts. I have scripts for every single process. I think our script is about 11 pages long. But, obviously we don't want people reading. So they have to memorize these things so that they can use their own words. Just like you've used your own words for your whole life, and you know what works best for you. But if you
Mm-hmm.
understand the theory of it all, if you understand the A to B to C of it, uh, you can utilize your own words and make it make sense. But it really does come down to the scripting, and it's not just a script. It is a process. And for me, it's always selling the next step and walking and making people feel like they're going through a stepped process. We are used to waiting in line as people. We are used to taking a number. We're used to these things. We're used to the next step. Everything moves along in phases. So by explaining that to the seller that you're on the phone with, okay, so the first step is, I'm going to learn about your house. The next step is, I want you to tell me where you're going to move and why the new house is different than the house you're in right now. And that creates a disdain against the property they're in now, because they're dreaming about the new property. And as they're dreaming about the new property and where they're going to relocate to, it unlocks dopamine. Once you unlock dopamine in the brain, it cannot go back in the body. And now they're forward thinking, they're future thinking, and they're really focused on getting to that next step. So now the next step is, let's talk about the financial side of things. Where are you at with your payments? Are you behind on anything? We dive into the financial aspect and really, selling each step of the process to move it forward. They feel like they've accomplished something, that part's behind them, on to the next phase. And that helps you get up to the contracting point. Once you're in the contract and you're talking about the contract, you take that step. Now we're going to walk through the contract together and make sure that I didn't do any typos, and we're going to make sure that everything's spelled out here as we agreed. Now the next step is we're going to sign it. Now the next step is my transaction coordination team is going to be stepping in. And the next step after that is we're going to be scheduling some walkthroughs with our inspectors and our investor partners. So always selling that next step and keeping to a script. And again, if that script is explainable enough to the sellers and educational enough to the sellers to where it makes sense to the sellers, cash offer, seller finance, sub two, wraps, novations, list everything down, even down to listing the property and marketing the property and your marketing strategies. We're going to list it high because people like to negotiate so that we can agree to that price and they feel like they won something, and it's still going to be higher than where we wanted to be. All that explanation and seller education, if that's in your scripts, and if you hire properly, then you're good. Your salespeople, because you hired well, are going to be able to wrap their brain around that. And then I do lots of trainings. We do trainings on each specific product that we sell. Each service that we provide has a separate training.
It seems from what you're saying that the first phase, this discovery phase, is really what is going to guide you in one direction to another. Because obviously, every strategy has the perfect avatar of customer. I would say that a sub two, for example, is typically, from what I've been seeing in my marketing, it's usually a seller that has to relocate, but they bought this house not that long ago. They don't have much equity in the house, so they can't really walk out of the house because they would have to cut a check at closing. This is an avatar that is perfect for a sub two. Now, someone that has a lot of equity is going to be probably more like a seller finance deal or a cash deal. So it's going to vary depending on this first 10, 15 minutes discovery phase of the call, right?
Oh, 100%. And, discovery, you want to take as much time as you can on discovery. And you need to ask really good questions. If you ask great questions, you're going to get really good answers. And, a lot of people forget that in sales is 90% listening, 10% asking good questions, and 90% listening. If you're not listening, you're not hearing what they're telling you. Everything that they tell you is another bullet to load into your chamber for you to go to work. And if you're not picking up what they're putting down, then you're really not doing your job. And, by asking those good questions through the discovery phase, and through the discovery phase, it builds rapport. Most people, once they get out of the fact that, they get out of the way that they don't know you, and you get past that, and you can get them to a place of comfortability where they're comfortable talking about their home, their situation. That's why I talk about the home first. I will never dive into a call and be like, tell me about you, tell me about your situation. They don't know me. Why would they feel comfortable to really spill the beans and give me all that information? So if I can get them talking about the property and talking about the home, and talking about where they want to move to and why, they start really opening up. And these are things that are easy for them to talk about because it's not necessarily personal. It's not about them. It's about property. It's about where they want to move to. And when they're talking about where they want to move to, you can start to uncover who they are and what their wants are and what their taste and style is. And that enables you to ask even better questions. And that will lead you to the scenario. Tell me about your situation. Tell me what's going on. I heard you say this. It sounds like we're going in this direction. And it really helps you guide the call. So you ask great questions. You set them up to give you great answers and give you all the ammo that you need so that you can formulate the right offer. Just like you said, every situation is going to be a little bit different. And if they do have equity or if it is free and clear, then obviously a creative offer is something that's going to play very well. And a cash offer may not be very enticing to them. If they don't have any equity, a terms offer is not going to be very exciting to them. So if you don't ask these good questions and find out who they are and what their scenario is, what their situation is, you're gonna hit them with an offer that doesn't land. It's not the right fit for them. It's not the proper solution for them. let's face it, a cash offer doesn't fit everybody. A creative finance term doesn't fit everybody. A novation and the amount of time it takes for a novation doesn't fit everybody. So by learning out what their time frame is, that's a big question that I ask. You reached out through a form that you filled out online, and that shows to me that you are proactive in trying to take the next step in your life. What's the timeline on that next step in your life? Can you talk to me a little bit about that? And when they talk about that timeline, that uncovers a lot. I lost my job, or I lost my husband, or I want to move closer to family, or we're downsizing, or I'm being restationed, right? There's all these things, and they'll uncover what their motivation is, which usually pain and motivation go hand in hand. But they'll uncover that during that timeline question.
So
that enables you to then pivot.
Let me ask you something, Forrest. When you have those forms online, obviously, like we are all looking to get the best quality of lead, this seller that is going to, give you all this information and has like a real pain point behind, like a real motivation. Now, you probably experience many times that, you have some people that fill a form on 20 different websites, and then in the first 2 minutes of the call, you can figure it out. Usually they're just shopping around, they're looking to get the best offer. My question is, what do you do at this point? Do you unqualify them right away and try to exit the conversation, or do you still try to nurture them to get them to your point?
Look, we talked about rural properties in the beginning, and sometimes those will squeak through, and those need to be disqualified. Oftentimes in rural areas where there's only 400 or 500 or 600 people population, you're talking to the only investor in the area. So what are you going to do? Take the contract and sell it back to that person? It's really not going to happen. So disqualifying based on population and those things are easy. Those are the low hanging fruit disqualifiers. But when you're talking to some people that are money minded and they're only interested in getting a certain number, if you offer creative terms, you still have a lead. You still have an opportunity from that lead. Because you can say things like, I can pay your price, but it would have to be on terms. And most of those people that are fishing for a price, they're not just reaching out to one person. And anytime you have a lead come through your system, you would be arrogant and ignorant to assume that you're the only person that they reached out to, or the first.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So, especially when people are money minded, they are shopping. So they'll tell you, you always want to ask them, have you spoken with an agent? Have you spoken with other investors? And what was their feedback? Oh, yes, I talked to a bunch of different, investors, and they were all low offers. I'm curious how low. What were their offers? I don't want to offend you, and I don't want to go there. So I have a lot of different solutions. So it sounds like a cash offer is not going to be the one. But I do have a way to meet your price. But I'm curious, what were they offering? It kind of lets you know where their disdain is, what they want to stay away from. What is a...
Yeah, it gives you ammunition for the rest of the conversation.
Sure. And then you start massaging them. And for me, I like to talk about tax. Usually people that are money-minded, they understand taxation. And they understand, Uncle Sam is going to come in and take a portion of it. So in creative finance, I lean into that a lot. And, if you were to get this higher lump sum right now, that would put you into a different tax bracket, and you're going to lose, a healthy portion of that money. Whereas if I were to give you a substantial down payment, substantial enough for you to move on to the next chapter, move on to the next step of your life, and monthly payments, for the equity that you have in your home, against the principal, maybe there's interest in there. Again, it's creative, so you can play with that however you need to. Would that suffice? Would that give you the money that you want to spend every month? I mean, it's all great to look at your bank account and say, oh, wow, look at all the money that I have. But we don't all go spend $300,000 every day. So looking at $300,000 in your bank account is not necessarily important. If you know that you'd rather be able to have $2,500 a month or $1,500 a month in extra spendable cash, and say $25,000 in the bank, and that's really comfortable for you, well, then now we're having a conversation. I'll give you the 25 in the bank. I'll give you the $1,500 a month. And in 5 or 7 years on a balloon, and I've been paying into principal each year, so it's taking that balloon down smaller and smaller. I'll give you that lump sum then, and we will have eaten into that. So you're going to have money that, you're not going to be so heavily taxed on. And when you do get that lump sum, it'll be chewed down. So you're not going to, again, have such a lump sum. And let's stay away from some of these tax brackets. I don't think that you want to get money that you want to just have to give away. And with older folks and some of the older folks that are selling their home, that's really ideal for them because they want to preserve as much money for their family, for their kids, and they want to live out their golden years. So, having extra money coming in every month and not being taxed on that big lump sum is attractive. So again, it comes down to asking good questions. And even if they are money-minded and they want top of market, if the house deserves top of market, fine. If the house will be worth that top of market price in 5 or 7 years, and you're confident of that, well, then sometimes I overpay for properties. I just made an offer on a property in South Carolina the other day. Last week, they were asking $879,000 for this property. And I offered them $1 million. The area is growing like crazy. I offered them $1 million. I offered them $100,000 down, which is only 10%. And I offered them monthly installments on a 5-year balloon. And if it didn't appraise for $1 million in 5 years, that rolled to a 7-year balloon. And if it didn't appraise in 7 years at $1 million, that rolled to a 10-year balloon. So, and they're entertaining that offer right now. So it's hold on, what's that? I'll just have you pop in here. Yeah. So, there's a lot of ways to go about it. And they were really they had already had a property in Georgia under contract. So they were looking to move very quickly. They didn't need that lump sum. And as a matter of fact, that lump sum would have put them into an entirely different tax bracket based on the equity that they had in the property. So, again, it's just asking good questions.
I love that you bring that up, the whole tax implication, because that's an argument that I used a lot in seller financing and in sub-2s negotiation. And I feel that's something that most people are missing. They're talking about the equity that the seller would get that they will lose otherwise on a cash deal. They're talking about the cash flow. They're talking about all the benefits of doing a creative deals, but the tax implication for some reason get sometimes forgotten. And I think it's actually one of the most beneficial thing about doing a creative financing deal for sellers. So it's a very good point. One of the things that I wanted to touch base on, you talked about your process a little bit earlier. You were saying that the closer basically does an introduction to each step, the last step being transition to the transaction coordinator. Now, do you do live transfer for all of those steps? Like the lead manager do a live transfer to the closer and the closer then do a live transfer to the transaction coordinator? Or is it something that happens later on?
Yeah, no, that's always the goal. We and I'm bringing in Max Menez here,
Max,
who is from the Closers Lab. So that's always our goal, is to do the live transfer. Not everybody has that amount of time to spend on the phone. We definitely are sending the contracts out over the phone. We are going through those contracts itemized with the seller and getting those signed. A big issue that I find that a lot of wholesalers have is they get to that price, they get to that finish line on the phone, and they say, "Okay, great, I'll send you the contract."
And then the churn rate is through the roof.
They hang up, and the contract gets sent out, and then they're chasing them. Did you read the contract? When are you going to sign it? And what you're doing there is not only choking the process, but you're also allowing time, and time's a killer, for other wholesalers and other investors to get in the middle of your transaction, and then for them to take your contract and shop your offer. So by keeping them on the phone, keeping the blinders on, really enables you to move through the process. And I always say, listen, until we're in contract, we're just talking about being in business. Once we're in contract, now we're actually in business. So you know that I'm serious because I just sent you a contract. Check your inbox, and I'll know you're serious when you sign it. But before we get to that point, can you open up your email and open up that contract? Make sure that it's openable. Make sure it's clickable. And let's go through it and make sure I didn't do any typos, and make sure it's set up exactly how we went. We discussed it. And you go through it line by line with them. That way questions are out of the way. Okay, so you understand page 1? Awesome. Go ahead and initial the page down there at the bottom so it shows my boss that I know what I'm doing. I did my job. Now we're on page 2, right? So it's always a step process. Next, we were talking about I was always selling the next step. And, Johan had a question about how we educate our sales staff on cash offers, on creative finance, on novations, on sub-twos. And I was telling him, it really comes down to the scripting, because if the script can explain that to the sellers perfectly, well, then if you did good hiring, then you have some smart people that script will make sense to them as well.
Yeah.
And then training on each step of the process as well is so important. Yeah, I think it's huge. A lot of times what happens with a lot of is that they don't make smooth transitions from, let's say, the into something even because if you think about it, when you're talking to a seller and you've been back and forth, you've been following up, whatever it is, and all this time you've been negotiating a cash offer with that seller, but the cash offer happens to not work out. I see this a lot. The quick reaction from most salespeople that do acquisitions is to hit the seller over the head with the creative offer instead of doing a smooth transition. And so I call this transition agreements to where we're going to unblock the seller from the conversation and introduce a new solution for them. And the reason why we want to transition to that is because we want their attention and their cooperation. So we train our team here to understand, like, let's exhaust the cash option completely, and then let's transition them over to talk about whether they want a creative that's going to solve the problem. It's very important to understand that, because it's a big mistake that I see a lot of acquisition people make, is they bundle everything together and it sounds funny, hit the seller over the head with it, right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good picture of it. Let me ask you something. In the current market, like I do a lot of those interviews, and most companies seems to be transitioning to almost 100% innovation right now. So
Sure.
What do you guys experience right now in your company, the recent deal that you've been doing? Is it mostly cash deals, or do you see innovation being more and more important in your business?
I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, like Max is talking about, and I talked about earlier, having that multitude of options takes you away from a yes or no scenario. Here's my cash offer, yes or no, to a here's the cash offer, here's the creative terms, and like I said, inside of creative, you can have so many options. You can move numbers around however you want. It's creative, and then there's the innovation option and going the listing route, which at that point you're selling a longer period of time for a higher amount of money. Again, like we talked about earlier, not that longer amount of time always fits for everybody. But having that which one scenario means that you're going to be in a good spot. So we offer everything, and really novations are hitting, and creative finance are hitting, and cash offers are hitting. I mean,
so you don't see any variation depending on the market condition, like the implication of high interest rate, all of that. Like it's still approximately the same.
Sure. I mean, interest rates to a retail buyer are always going to be difficult, and hard money rates, like we talked about earlier, are always going to be difficult for a flipper, which is why a creative deal, if you can lock in that low rate, makes sense. But yeah, it is going to be contingent on the market. It's going to be contingent on the inventory. And if there's not a lot of inventory in an area, this is real estate 101. If there's not a lot of inventory in the area, a novation is a good way to go, because you're going to get it out in front of a retail buyer, and the retail buyer is not finding a lot of inventory, especially if you can come in with a creative offer and beat out the traditional options that they have available. And they have to do credit checks. They've got a lower down payment. They've got a low locked in interest rate. It makes it very attractive. So, but if, in an area where there's a ton of inventory, and days on market are very long. A novation play, all you're doing is setting yourself up to twiddle your thumbs. That's a problem that we see. So we won't pitch innovation. We won't lean into innovation in an area where days on market are high or inventory is high. It doesn't make sense for us at Green Elephant Development to do that, because again, we're just going to sit on that and sit on that and sit on that. And what's the seller going to do? Call you for updates, constantly badger you for what's going on, and it doesn't create a very it becomes somewhat toxic after a while.
Absolutely, makes sense. So I just want to go back to the contract, the part where you get the contract signed by the seller, and that might be a question for you, Max. So on this contract, we said obviously that you need to be on the phone with the seller and walk him through the contract for many different reasons. They might still shop your offer around as soon as you hang up. They might get stuck to some legal term that seems like nothing for you, but for them is a big deal. But I think that's the first golden nuggets here, because I think a lot of people in our audience probably to this day send the contract and wait for the seller to come back. So that's a very interesting point. Now, next question is, what if the seller is telling you like, hey, I don't have access to my computers and my email right now, or I'm not available to walk through the contract right now? What is your next move?
So we make it clear, right? We're not going to get off the phone without actually setting up the expectations. What the next steps are, whether that's jumping on a future call, whether that's jumping on a phone call a little bit later. The mistake is that, again, is send the contract and wait, and we don't want to do that. So if I was talking to you, go ahead, I'm going to say, hey, John, I get it. You're very busy. Ultimately, the last thing I want to do is have you run through this thing, at a fast pace without you understanding what this is going on. So if you were me, setting up a call back for you and I to jump on the phone, when would you set that up? I'm going to let you pick the date. I'm going to let you pick the time. And if you ask me the question, as well, can you just send it to me so I can read it? I would love to do that as much as I would love to do that. Company policy is I walk everybody through the agreement. And the only reason why I do this is because when there's questions, what tends to happen is we actually sellers don't ever call me, because either one or two ask the question. Number two, they just, they just don't, they move on because it's too complicated. And I want to make sure that I'm there for you for your questions. I want to make sure that I walk you through the everything. I'm not going to do this. And that's, company policy again. That's why we do.
And I make sure that they're excited. Right? Are you excited to move forward? Because I'm excited for you. And once you get that, yes, I'm excited. Great. So when will you be in front of that computer? Let me know when that is, because when you tell me you're in front of that computer, I'm gonna send this exciting contract so we can sit down and go over it together. It's very important that we go over this together. I want to present you with my offer. And I have a problem with this. I constantly trip myself up. I tell everybody we don't want to say the word contract. It should be agreement, right? And contract sounds very scary. So the word agreement is what I utilize. And I don't say, let me send you my offer. I want to say, let me present you with my offer. When can we do the offer presentation? And when we commit to that time, then we're gonna call them. You're in front of the computer, great. Click the button. They get that email. Go ahead and check your email, Johan, and make sure that you got that contract, that agreement. Again, make sure you get that agreement, and let's go through it together line by line.
And here's the other thing. The next step for me, I'm going to send you a blank copy so you can read it, so you can look through it. Once you what's in there, build that one. Guess what that's going to do? It's going to also give me your
And I find that works really well in a scenario where, maybe the wife is saying, well, I have to go over this with my husband and he's busy today, so I'll go over it with him tomorrow. Or a business partner that says, this sounds great, I just have to go over it with my, with my business partner. The terms we went over, right? So you're good with the 30 days and 14 days, and this is the price, and we're good on that, right? Good. So as long as we understand that, I'll go ahead and send over the agreement so you can look through it with your husband and look through it. And then if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, tomorrow, as we agreed upon at 2:15, I'm going to give you the offer presentation, and we're going to hop on a phone call, and I'll send you over this exact same agreement, but it'll be filled out with the numbers that we already agreed to. And
I like it.
I'm excited.
So you're basically just having a sample of the agreement that you just send away, so they can look at the terms that are going to be identical, but it's not an executed contract. There is no address, there is no name, none of that.
100%. And just like Max said, this means that they cannot shop that contract. They can't go show it to their neighbor and say, I know you wanted the house and you said you'd pay $600,000. These people are paying $615,000. And look, see, it's right here in writing, and it gives the neighbor a chance to come back at $616,000. And now we're in a tennis match, which is exhausting and stupid. So, presenting them with that means they can't shop that offer. All they have is a blank contract so that they can read the terms and they can discuss that with their husband, their spouse, their significant other, and or other children. Right. A lot of times we work with inherited properties, and that's a really good way. If there's 5 siblings that are trying to decide on the property, send that out to them and let them go through that and make sure that they understand it. Then, once all the understanding is out of the way, and they already know the numbers, they've already heard the numbers that have been agreed upon, then we'll go ahead and fill that in, click the send button, and hop on that offer presentation.
That makes perfect sense. And I love what you say about the vocabulary and the choice of the word that you're going to use, because between an agreement and a contract, for example, it can seem like way less aggressive. And I feel sometimes it might be a mistake that we do in the industry because we use the same term all over again every single day. So everything seems simple to us, but for an homeowner, it might be the single biggest transaction in their life, So that's why an agreement by itself, I'm sure there is a lot of different terms inside of this agreement that might get scary for a seller. That's why being there and being able to walk them through this agreement is very important. So, yeah.
We do this thing every single day, right? We do this 10, 15 times, maybe 20 times. These people that we speak with are doing this once or twice a year. So we get we have this meeting. We have to bring all of our language, all of our industry terms to.
Yeah. It's like I grew up in the theater and doing a lot of theater, and they always say you got to talk to the back row, right? So that the front row can hear you. It's the same ideology in working with a seller as it is with working with an audience. You have to have it dummied down enough and explainable enough so that even the people in the back row can understand what the hell you're talking about. Not everybody's a rocket scientist. Now, real estate isn't rocket science, but to a lot of people, it's intimidating. And most of the people that wholesalers are going to talk to on the phone, most of these homeowners, they don't know anything about real estate except for the fact that they slept in a house last night. So, and this is their biggest asset. The only time they've ever done real estate in their life is when they bought this asset, and likely they went through a realtor who handled the entire process for them and told them yes, no, and this is how it works. And that's really our job. And so there's a lot of seller education. We talked about this earlier. There's a lot of seller education that has to go into play, and you really have to make sure it makes sense. We use explainer videos. We have cartoon videos. He's talking about putting it into crayon terminology. We have that in explainer videos and cartoon videos that we send out to the sellers, explaining them the cash offer, explaining them sub-2, explaining them creative finance, explaining the novation process, all of these different videos so that it really wraps their brain around it. And, in sales, the best sale is something that you can apply as many senses to as possible. So if you're doing a sale over the phone, you're only applying to one sense, the audible sense. If you can get them in front of the computer to look at comps with you, or to look at an explainer video, you're now applying to 2 senses, the audible and the visual sense. It's just like a face-to-face appointment, and that's why that has such a higher conversion over, say, phone sales, is that you're able to do those belly-to-belly conversations, and they can see your reaction. They feel you, they shake your hand, and it's appealing to more senses. So, getting them in front of the computer and showing them comps and comparable properties, is sometimes the best way to go. A lot of times sellers will say the house 4 doors down from me sold last month for $700,000. It's exactly the same model as mine. I know because I walked it in 1984 when I bought mine. So that's what I want for my house. And using software tools like Privy, we're able to go in and look at those before and after photos and let them know, you know what, you're right. It did sell for $700,000 last month, but 5 months ago there was a quiet sale to an LLC, and it sold for $411,000 in the same condition that you described your property to. You said that you kept your property in perfect, like new condition from 1984. The same oak cabinets, the same linoleum flooring. Well, that's what this one had. At a quiet sale, it sold for $400 and something thousand. 5 months ago, they did a major rehab. They now have a cascading center island and a Viking appliance package. And, they shaved the popcorn off the ceilings and they put in hardwood floors. They even added a pool and HVAC and a new electrical panel. That's how they were able to achieve $700,000. That's what I want to sell your home for. And I know that that's what you want to sell yours for, but do you have the $150,000 to put into it, as I do, to reach that top of market figure? And if you don't, which is probably what I'm assuming why you contacted us, well, then I would be happy to buy it in as-is condition, do that work myself and get it to there. But we have to look at what it's worth right now. And 5 months ago, and mind you, 5 months ago, interest rates were a little bit lower than they are now. It sold for $418,000. So if that's what other investors are paying, I can't pay more than what my competition, what my industry is paying. Otherwise, I'd have to fire myself out of my own industry. So that's what investors are paying for the house in that condition. Let me send you the photos. Let me pull these photos, the before and after photos. Let me do some screenshots and email them over to you, or in front of a computer so we can look at them together. And now you're into that visual side of the sale, and it's not just audible. And that's what's going to kind of move the needle.
So let me ask you something. You were talking about the comps. When are you guys currently structured? Like, do you have your closers running the comps themselves, or do you have a deal desk running the comps for all the closers?
So currently, right now, our closers are looking at this because we want to take a quick peek to see what is actually going on. So we have a seller that's asking, $1 million for it's typically not just use it as an extreme example. We want the closers to take a quick peek and they see that we're selling between 250 to 300,000. They need to get an idea of where the seller is realistically. Ultimately, they team. So
okay.
Few ways we're going to do it. Once the we'll get together. As always, there is going to be one acquisition. That person is going to be running. They're going to be looking at ARVs. To our closers or closers to stay focused, we still want to just take a quick peek to make sure that they're keeping the stock honest when it comes to the conversation.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So Forrest, I think we talked a little bit earlier about obviously your company Green Elephant focus heavily on wholesaling, but do you have any other strategies that you're currently working on at the same time? I think we talked a little bit about new development. Can you tell us a bit more about the project you have in this area?
Yeah, well, Green Elephant Development has been a development company for 10 years. Cody Sperber, the clever investor, has been doing this for 19 years. You always see him on YouTube and Instagram.
He was the first guy. It's how I learned wholesaling. Back in the day, I think when I moved from France to the US 8 years ago, and there was only 2 guys teaching real estate on YouTube. I think it was Sean Terry and Cody Sperber.
Yep. And, it's interesting. I have a similar experience to that as well. And, I'm 4th generation real estate. And, my father was a broker and a commercial developer. His father before him was a broker and so forth. So 4th generation real estate. And real estate has always been a hobby for me. I purchased my first flip when I was 19 years old. But it's never been, my front burner revenue source or vocation. That's what we talked earlier about my sales and marketing company. And prior to that, I was the music supervisor for the UFC. And prior to that, I was signed to Capitol Records and toured around. And prior to that, I was on stage and in front of cameras as an actor. So there's a lot of different chapters that I was really working on, and real estate was where I put my money. But it wasn't my vocation. But over the course of that time, I saw all these videos popping up. And, I'd see Tom on Flip or Flop. I would see Cody on YouTube and Sean on YouTube. And, so it always just kind of comes full circle. And it was interesting when Tarek and I were working together, he used to put a lot of, beautiful words and lots of time into talking about Cody Sperber and how Cody would mentor Tarek and they would have conversations together. And so I always knew that, as much as Tarek was, a king in the flipping, industry because of his TV shows and what that enabled him to do in real estate. Everybody has mentors and everybody has coaches. And I think that's very important. And, knowing that Cody was playing a big part in that for Tarek. That's how Cody and I became to know each other. And, when I opted not to renew and not to continue moving forward with Tarek and wanted to move on, that was the phone call that I got from Cody. And, it was a very easy and seamless transition for me. I did have to relocate from California to Arizona, and that was a big decision. But working with Cody and now being very good friends with Sean Terry and being very good friends with Pace Morby and Jamil and just all of these, high level people, Ed Milet, the list just kind of goes on and on. I was recently out in Miami with Grant Cardone, and we were working together and lunching together, and it's just amazing, the level of knowledge that I've been able to tap into and the resources. And Robert Kiyosaki has been in the office, and we've had many conversations and speaking in seminar gigs together. It's really turned into a monster. And throughout that, Cody has been doing real estate development. And through Green Elephant Development, we are completing the sale of 14 luxury builds. It took about 18 months to put together. We bought the land and scraped the lots and built these luxury builds here in Arcadia and Scottsdale. And they're all $3 to $4 million properties. And most of them have sold over the last 6 or 8 months. I think we have 3 or 4 that are closing right now and 2 more that are still for sale. So that's on the single family residential side. And then from there, we're also doing a lot of very large scale land development with our good friend Jerome Maldonado, where we're building out truly planned communities, where we're putting in 240 units of manufactured homes, luxury manufactured homes, with all the amenities, the clubhouses, the pools, the dog runs, the playgrounds, and really diving deep into that. Cody and Vina Jetty just closed about 2 or 3 weeks ago on 492 unit complex here in Tempe, Arizona. And Vina Jetty, if your viewers don't know who she is, she's an amazing mind. She has over $1 billion under management right now, and she's very big in raising money and capital and multifamily. But so we're very very heavily involved in Green Elephant development on the development side. Max and I are focused on sell quick for cash. Sell quick for cash is our Green Elephant wholesale channel, and that is where, like we talked about in the beginning, our fast cash cycle comes from. Having a fast cash cycle enables us to roll money into marketing and advertising. It enables us to really do things in volume. And when you're marketing aggressively, that wide net that you cast out there for your wholesale, that wide net is what enables you to trip and fall over your buy and holds and your flip properties and your investment opportunities as those leads come through. And, having a development company and being a developer, as well as doing the wholesale, as well as having a lot of rental and income properties. We have a lot of short-term rental properties. I do personally, but also with Cody, we have luxury Airbnbs in most major cities: Las Vegas, Park Cities, Hawaii, Costa Rica. The list kind of goes from there. Miami. We even have an Airbnb yacht in Miami that we short-term.
That's amazing.
So, it's really, we're very diversified, and that enables us to really analyze properties and analyze opportunities in a very unique way because we have so many exit strategies at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Sellquickforcash.com is really what Max and I are really focused on right now, and we've been growing that like crazy. And Max just joined. It's been 3 or 4 weeks now. Yeah, 4 weeks right after Closers Olympics. Max came over, and Max is very focused and very astute and probably the best in the business at sales training, sales process. There's a big difference. Max can go into it about the difference between a script and an actual sales script and a sales process. And having Max be able to implement that into Sell Quick for Cash and be able to then take that infrastructure and bring on board new talent and new staff has really been amazing. And we have a big push right now that we're doing. We are looking for top level closers. We are looking for the best out there, whether they're a solopreneur doing it on their own or they're working for another shop, and their deals aren't getting to the finish line, so they're not making money, they're not getting disposed of. We want to hear from you. And Max is doing a lot of push on social right now, as am I, and so is Cody. But we're really looking for local talent. People that are in the Phoenix area that are able to come in and work with us day in and day out and really absorb the masterful training that Max can provide to them, and being in an environment with nothing but top level, top tier of the real estate investing industry. People having access to Pace Morby, Cody Sperber, Jamil Damji, Max Jimenez, Ryan Overcash is also in our office, heading up our dispositions team now. He's got a big following on social, and also worked under Max when Max was partnered with Steve Trang, Real Estate Disruptors. So, we're pulling from all of the best top shops in the Phoenix area, and Phoenix is to real estate investing what Silicon Valley is to startups. It really is a hub, and there's so much good talent here that we're really pulling from, and we're kind of a bright light and a beacon for those people to be able to easily jump ship and come over and work with us.
Yeah.
So we're really expanding the team and the staff right now. So that's a big push for us. We've got nearly $300,000 on board this month, halfway through September. So.
Yeah, Phoenix is a very interesting city, and I was about to say that when you told me that you relocated from California to Arizona. For some reason, Arizona has been like kind of the mecca of wholesaling for so many years now. I feel like it's been Tampa in Florida for a few years, back like 5-6 years ago, but now Phoenix is really the place where everything happened. It's a shame for me. I would rather that be in Miami, but it's great for you guys.
I love Miami. I'm addicted to Miami. I'm there as often as I can get. But no, Phoenix is the hub, and that was a big draw for me over and above just being partnered up with Cody Sperber, but really being in Phoenix and working with our friend Carlos Reyes is here, and he's a near and dear friend to both Max and I. That's a very special relationship, and working with all these great minds, they are all here, and all the masterminds and seminars happen here. We have an event center at our campus here that we own, our big office space, big office building, and we throw events weekly here, and monthly we have our Deal Exchange meetup that happens every last Thursday of the month. DealExchangeMeetup.com for those people out there that are local and want to register and come by. It's a free event. Networking. We have amazing speakers: Pace Morby, Robert Kiyosaki, Robert G. Allen. I usually host the event, and it's just an amazing networking opportunity. It's a free event, free cocktails, and that's every last Thursday of the month. And then we have all of our other events that we do here in the Phoenix area as well, notwithstanding just at our event center. So it's just a good location where there's a lot of very amazing minds and like minds that are all looking to help each other. And that's the beautiful thing about real estate investing that I find. And you don't find that if you had a meetup for attorneys, no one's really sharing their secret sauce.
It's funny because we are the only industry that actually collaborates at such a high level, because Ryan came from finance, right? He's never seen this before. Yeah. So amazed when he came.
It's true.
It's beautiful.
It is, and to be honest with you guys, like I'm trying here in South Florida to create like some, we do some monthly event and stuff like that, and the community that you have in Phoenix is something that is very inspiring to me, and I'm trying to reproduce at a smaller scale something here in Florida, because I think it's key, having this collaboration and this community. It's a good point. In any other industry, you don't have that. Everybody kind of keep their secret. They don't want to share. So it's beautiful.
We went to an event called wholesaling, and it was myself, Steve, Pace, Jamil, all the batch owners. Like Phoenix was there, like representing really big, and that was one of the feedbacks. Everybody was so amazed because there wasn't a lot of community in 2019, even before that. Even now, there's some cities, but that was the one thing that stood out to everybody. How close Phoenix, the people in Phoenix, how close they got, how much collaboration, how much community was built, and it's been crazy.
I mean, just after we get off this podcast, I've got to go prepare because we're sponsoring an event with Jamil later this afternoon with Capital Fund One and everybody from Triple Digit Flip on A&E, and we're doing that this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And then from there, Max and I are leaving, and we're going over to Batch, to Jesse Burrell's headquarters. Jesse is become a near and dear friend as well. He's a really, really good dude, and just a special human being. We're going to be going over there and doing another event. So again, it's all so easily accessible by being here in Phoenix, and that's why there are a lot of great people out here, and they are trying to do it on their own. And if they have some success and they're tired of hitting their head against the wall, I'd really like to hear from them. And they can contact, me or Max through our Instagram channels.
So my last question for you, Forrest, you were talking about, attracting all those talents. And I understand you guys have a big office space and you're looking to have people in office. Can you just tell me really quick your feedback on this whole, virtual team versus in office, especially on sales? Because I feel the rest of it, all your back office, marketing, operation, all of that can be delegated. It can be overseen. It can be working remotely from any states already. But
that's a really, really good question, and I get asked that a lot, especially when I'm out at speaking at masterminds or seminars. And yes, you can definitely grow a virtual team. You absolutely can. I mentor a lot of owners and C-levels, operators that have virtual teams. But as good as you can get that to be on the results side, the one thing you will never have, as you will have in in-office, is culture and creating a good office ecosystem. And for me, I find that having that good culture and that good ecosystem, it provides what I call the stickiness factor. You can go and work for any other shop, but if the place that you work at and you go to every day has an amazing culture, that job becomes sticky. It's sticky. You're not going to leave. You're not going to have a high turnover rate as an owner operator because you're creating a good culture and a good ecosystem where people want to come and work. They have a good time working. Not only are they making money, but they're making friends and they're learning and they're growing as human beings all in the same process. And you'll never be able to fully achieve that through a virtual team, even if you're doing constant daily Zoom calls and, constantly touching through the camera. It's just not the same. And, it's a lot more challenging to be able to overlook someone's shoulder and walk them through phone calls or coach them through hurdles when they're off in their living room doing it on their own. And then they call you and they say, well, here's the hurdles that I hit, as opposed to working with them in the moment and helping them through that in the moment to overcome those challenges. So I have always been an in-office person. I've always grown my teams in office. I've had remote reps and they've worked out. But just like the other day, Monday, we let our final remote worker go. We parted ways, and it wasn't for lack of performance. It was not fair to that person to not be available to be feeding off of everybody else in the office, feeding off of their learning experiences, being involved in all of the little training materials and all of the little learning happenstances that come about on a daily basis. And we saw that everybody in office was excelling at a faster pace than any remote worker we could ever have. And it's not fair to them. And they'll be measured to the same KPIs, right? So I always say, if you're going to have a remote team, have a remote team. If you're going to have an in-office team, have an in-office team. You can have, cold callers that are remote or VAs. That's a different scenario. But for an actual sales team, there's not a quarterback that's going to play in the Super Bowl via Zoom. It's not going to work.
Yep.
It just doesn't work that way. To have a team, they all have to have that camaraderie and they've all got to be in the same place and feeding off that same energy and that same culture and that same environment. So I always say, hire and put them butts in seats. Get in-house marketing managers. Get in-house tech people. Get in-house. We use a lot of interns. I have VAs, but we use a lot of interns as well. And interns breed more energy and more culture to the environment. And, you're able to get things done faster because they're right there in front of you. Mm-hmm. So growing that office infrastructure and scaling up your internal team, and it doesn't have to be costly. A lot of people think about adding on more people, they're adding on more overhead. If you do it commission-based and the interns are based on educational internship, you're not increasing your bottom line. Yeah. You're increasing your workforce and you're increasing the amount of opportunity that you can generate for your business.
It makes sense. It makes sense. And I think you resolve another issue that most people have in the industry is the churn rate on sales people, because obviously someone that works remotely from another state or another country, uh, they're going to churn at some point. Usually it's anywhere between 8 to 12 months. I feel like because you build all this company culture, people don't want to leave. They want to stay in the same environment. They want to stay near their friend. They want to be part of it. So you probably have a churn rate that is way better than the industry average.
Well, we keep it fun. Make sure everybody's having a good time. And again, we have these events that happen at our event center, and
Yeah.
everybody's welcome to go to these. So, most people, for some of our high level events and some of our mastermind, I know Max, you threw a mastermind here. It's accessible if you work here, and you don't have to pay $2,500 to go in and listen to Pace Morby talk or Jamil or even Robert Kiyosaki or Cody Stone. You have access to that because it's on our turf, it's in our home. And if you work here, then you get access to all of those things, all the training materials, the relationships. And, if someone were to call Pace Morby and say, hey, Pace, I have a deal for you, Pace is going to say, call one of my underlings. He'll say it in a much nicer way than that because Pace is an amazing human. But that's going to be the scenario. If you say, hey, Pace, I'm calling from Cody Sperber's office. Cody wanted me to reach out to you about this property. Pace will drop anything that he is doing and focus his attention on you. That is worth its weight alone in gold, because now you have access to, if you work here, you have access to our connection, our network, and your network is your network. And the higher level network you have, the easier it is to learn and grow.
So what's the best way if some of our listener today want to apply to come work with you guys at Green Elephant? Like what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way is all my socials are Real Max Menace, Real Max Menace. Instagram's the most where I'm most active, so
All right.
And for me, it's Forrest Blackburn. So Forrest Blackburn, 2 R's in Forrest and Forrest Blackburn everywhere. You can find me at forrestblackburn.com. Is also a way for you to get in contact with us. But Instagram is usually the fastest, most direct way to get in contact with either one of us. And we have lots of links throughout our stories and our reels where people can apply to come and work here. There's a link that will take them to a form, a questionnaire, because we do a lot of qualification. We don't take everybody. We don't take very many people at all. To be perfectly honest, we're very picky and choosy when it comes to who we allow into this ecosystem. And, they have to have been making a certain amount of money for the past few years. They have to have certain sales skills and knowledge points to be able to come and work here. But we want to hear from everybody. We want to get to know everybody. And there's a lot of resource links that are on my website. We talked about Privy earlier and Investor Lift earlier. There's Prime Financial Services to get their LLCs and their taxation set up. There's Credit Bully to help them get to $500,000 no interest credit cards to move their business forward. There's a lot of different resources. Bateman Collective to help you with your PPC. So there's a lot of resources on my website for people to go to and use what I use in the companies that I work with. But right now we're really Max and I are so focused on Sell Quick for Cash, Green Elephant Development, our wholesale channel, that we're really looking to expand out our team even more. And even in this market today, it's not difficult to get over $1 million and get into 7-figure months consistently with the right team. And we've gone through a lot of staff changes very recently, and a lot of operational changes. Max coming on board, he and I partnered up to get this stuff done, and it's really been a breath of fresh air for me. And I'm very excited on the trajectory that we have, and we're moving and shaking. So we're looking for good people.
Yeah, looks like you guys have something amazing going on right now. I will add all the link for people to reach out to you in the description below. Just like if someone is not quite ready to jump ship yet, is not really looking for a closer opportunity, do you guys have any kind of coaching program, training program, courses, any of that going on that our listener can check as well?
Yeah, that's all available on my website as far as my coaching and mentoring is concerned. I know Max has his too, but all of those links are on my website. Everything from one-on-one coaching and mentoring to 6 month plans where we'll get your business to six figures a month within that 6 months. And there's also an online master course through Investor Lift that people can purchase through the website as well. So I'm always available, and everybody can either book a strategy call or get on a Zoom call with me. All that's done through forrestblackburn.com. But again, you can always reach out to me on Instagram and go that route. Max, what do you have available for everybody? And what I love about what Max has to offer too is is it YouTube? YouTube as well. Yeah. If you're on YouTube, you got to check out Max. There are so many live recorded phone calls that he does live where he's holding his phone. Yeah, over 140 hours
Wow.
of phone calls where you can hear wins, you can hear losses, you can hear hurdles and objection overcoming. You can hear all of this stuff. So I think that that's a very valuable thing. So you can really see, what we're all about and how we train and how we get results. Max hasn't been, on the Closers Olympics all these years for nothing. He is one of the top closers in the country. I'm a demonstrative learner, and I know that most people are out there as well. So go and check out some of those videos that Max has. And again, at Real Max is on YouTube. So yeah, go check that out. But really, guys, get in contact with us through Instagram. Follow
All right.
us because we're dropping nuggets every day. Message us, send us DMs, and let's seek and work together. Whether it's we're helping you and coaching you on your business, or really what we're looking for is local people here in Phoenix to come in and learn and work and grow and build wealth with us together day in and day out at Green Elephant Development and with Cody Sperber and Max and myself. So I'll send you over a link on that too, Johan.
Yep, absolutely. I will add everything below. Okay, last question for you guys. Do you have any last parting words, any key advice? I'm sure there is a lot of things that you learn in your journey, but if you had to keep it to one key advice, Forrest, you can start, and then Max, if you have one as well.
So for me, a lot of people talk about consistency. Being consistent, everybody understands. But there's another level to that that's reserved for winners. And that's being relentless. You have to be relentless in your processes. Never give up. Always split test. Always try different things. I say it all the time, be a cinder block on a gas pedal. You have to be willing to put in all of the time. Not just some of the time, and you work really hard during some of that, all of the time. You have to be relentless in your pursuit of perfection, of closing, of building wealth. You have to be relentless. It's not just enough to be consistent. A lot of people can be consistent. You go to your job every day. You have lunch every day. That's consistent. But the 1% of people, what's reserved for the top people is being relentless and never letting up and always striving to outperform anybody else in your space, anybody else who's talking to that seller, anybody else who has the opportunity that you have with real estate to make money. Real estate, the money's going to go to somebody, folks. So why not you? You have to be relentless in every aspect of what you do. It's not enough to just be consistent. Anybody can be consistent. Everybody knows consistency pays off. So everybody's consistent. Be relentless. That's reserved for winners. If you're relentless, I will see you at the winner's circle. And that's the biggest advice that I can give to anybody. Just stay with it and absolutely be relentless and work as hard as you possibly can, harder than everybody else. And that's how you're going to get to the top.
Beautiful.
So for me, one of my mentors, and obviously we all have mentors, and one of my list is Jim Brown. Obviously, that's the way he wrote the book. It's called Unveiling. And that's being relentless. So that's what you want to sell? Or is this really where you want to be? So that puts you in a position to really think about, where your ambition is going and where your focus is going. And the one thing the quote that changed my life is this: rarely does income ever supersede self-development. So you've got to continuously be working on your mindset. Social media providing all these great, things that we say, but it's really powerful. Changing your belief system changes your circumstances. And so I encourage those out there is continuously work on yourself. We have a model on our team. We have a model inside the company that we work more on ourselves than we do on our business. Why is that? Because we want to be great. We want to be persistent. We want to make sure that what we do is effective. And the only way we can do that is by continuously working on ourselves and including making those mind shifts.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good advice. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for giving me some time today. It was a treat. Not only I had Forrest, but I had the two of you guys on this show. So I think we actually drop a lot of value for the audience. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having us on. I really appreciate it. And I will see you again on another podcast for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, take care.
Hard and you aiming for the 7 figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors. All my entrepreneurs, time for you to check this. Johan Direct, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe. REI Tribe. Let's go.